Okay, so I guess I'll do a mic check here to make sure this is all working. I think it's the first time in a while I've done just such a like impromptu live stream. Just like, I'll wait until the weekend. Actually, I kind of need to do one now. So, okay, seems like that is working. And yeah, I'll switch my visuals over once it hits a quarter past. So just so anyone arriving on time is ready. But yeah, I have lots of screenshots here. Took the time immediately after everything happened for to actually watch the trailer a bunch of times, get all the screenshots. So I screenshotted pretty much every somewhat unique shot. So we have everything here as best that we actually can. And then if there's anything I've missed, I do have the trailer open on another screen, and like we can post about this stuff as well. But yeah, let's get started in just a second. So yeah, interesting. Obviously, it was a weird one. Like in that, like there were some things I was interested in from the stream, mainly this and the Dragon Prince, and they kept them until like right at the end. So it was a little bit of a frustrating watch, just to know that they like teased it like coming up like 10 minutes in, but we had to wait until like an hour, like 5 minutes in to actually get it. But still, it actually came out, and it's pretty good. So yeah, let's get started on this. So you can see here I have a document with tons of screenshots. I have the quote from Gyatso, which is the only dialogue really in the trailer. So I suppose just general thoughts. We have to talk about general thoughts. Visually, great. Absolutely fantastic. I think there's very little to complain about from a broad visual perspective with what we saw here. Background shots, the way a lot of the characters looked and stuff like that. CG for the animals that we got to see, obviously fantastic. But it was very much a teaser trailer in the sense that, like, obviously outside of the line throughout the background, we didn't actually get much of a sense for like maybe the tone, acting performances necessarily, in the sense, like, obviously teaser trailer, they do a lot of quick shots, so you don't get to linger and see what the kind of full kind of production is like for just a couple of seconds. Seen some discussion here about the narrator. They said, the host on this chat afterwards said Gyatso, and I was initially leaning in the trailer to Gyatso as well. The reason for that is because obviously Aang is the main character, not Iroh. So I think it makes sense to say always remember who you are. Like Gyatso to be saying that about Aang, especially because he is the character who's sort of like out of time. So it kind of makes sense that he has to remain who he was in the past, going forward and in the present. So that's that. I think it is anyway. They mentioned Gyatso, and I think the hosts were not being super like detailed, but to drop Gyatso out of nowhere, I think they knew what was happening. Basically, that's the kind of general idea. So my general thoughts again. I liked what I saw. I'm excited, definitely. It's just I definitely still need to see more. I think it's going to take, seeing like a full scene and seeing the acting, seeing like especially like how they break up the book. Book 1, 20 episodes, how they break it up into 8, that sort of stuff. So that's that. Did anyone get a hold of this bonus art that they mentioned? Yes, they mentioned that on the stream, that there's apparently bonus art up on Netflix. I had a look. Now, I took a look immediately after the stream, and I didn't find anything there. But I'm guessing it will go up in the coming hours. But yeah, let's get into the breakdown here. I have the screenshots here. I have them open in an image viewer as well, if we need to kind of, I suppose, zoom in a little bit better. But obviously, we start with Sozin's comet. So obviously, super interesting. This is the focus right at the start. And then we have a quick cut showing the kind of Fire Nation. Again, this is happening as like the word time is happening. So they're obviously referencing the fact that like these are basically flashbacks to 100 years ago, because probably the most interesting stuff from this is definitely this shot to me. What I was doing, my reaction to this was definitely like, genocide, that they're actually showing visuals from it. I'm guessing this is the Southern Air Temple getting attacked here by firebenders, and it's very cool looking. Obviously, it's happening at night time. The fireballs are coming in. Now, maybe you can bring up the point of like Sozin's comet enhanced firebenders. Does it fit the kind of ideal that we maybe had of this? You know, that's maybe something to get into, but I think just the general like visual of this, of like the attack coming in, the fact that like it is something we never saw in the show, that's an interesting kind of sign. Now, in terms of fully new content, how much specifics will they go into on this is the big question, because we don't really know the full story necessarily of like what exactly happened during the Enoma genocide. So are they just going to show a sense of like it's an attack and be very general and broad? I'm assuming you're going to have to focus on like Gyatso, because like they have an actor for Gyatso, so I'm assuming there'll be some spotlight here showing that off to highlight the significance of him. But beyond that, like how much focus will they give this? Like, are we going to see like Sozin in this early shot? That's going to be a kind of an interesting one, because again they have an actor for Sozin, and it's like, where does he show up? Kind of has to be in some sort of an early scene like this. So it'll be interesting to see what exactly is going on here, if they go into any specifics, because again they seem very cautious, afraid. I guess tonally it is a weird thing to maybe tell a story about the Enoma genocide in sort of the main continuity, but we'll see if they do anything here. Hard to get a good screenshot of what we get here, but they do zoom in a little bit, so we do get to see a bit of a clash of a bunch of firebenders, and then a bunch of air nomads kind of drop down, and there's a kind of clash happening in the middle. You can see some of them have like spears. There are these fireballs kind of coming in here. Again, shouldn't there be a ton of bending? Shouldn't this be like fire like all over the place? We don't know the full details or the full context, but certainly interesting just to see a lot of, you know, airbenders from 100 years ago and stuff like that. But very, very cool. And again, visuals like in the background here is actually seeing bits of the air temple and stuff like that. Very cool. Then they cut to effectively the boy in the iceberg. Like, it's, I guess, Sokka here, and I think as the actual video panned, you can see Katara just standing behind Sokka here. But I think this again looks very cool. The ice, snow, the actual ball itself. The backgrounds definitely, I think, look pretty strong here. This is a, you know, striking visual to go from the very like dark Fire Nation attack here at the start to just like very kind of vibrant, you know, whites and blues here with the Southern Water Tribe kind of icy kind of tundra stuff. So cool to see that. We do again get a close-up shot on Katara, I guess looking up at the boy in the iceberg, of course. It's an interesting one again, because I think in like the poster that we got for the show, Katara looks quite good. In the kind of more preview images that we've seen where she's wearing kind of, you know, the kind of winter coat, I maybe don't feel as strongly about. So, again, like just being slightly nitpicky here, but perfectly fine overall. Quick shot of Sokka here, and yeah, we kind of have to move on after that. But then this is kind of what I was waiting for. I actually put out a tweet pretty much just before the stream started of like, I'm trying to thinking to myself visually, what would I actually most like to see from book one in live action? What visual would I think actually be the most interesting to me? And I'm kind of like, I think it's Omashu in book one. I want to see those shoots and see what that kind of like tiered structure of Omashu is actually like. The doors here. This looks, I think, honestly, like incredible. Like, I've been very neutral on this show. Like, not too much of it has sort of excited me so far, but this shot was like, oh, like you have to be pretty impressed by this. So yeah, the doors open, of course. I wonder, will they do the kind of Bonzu Pippin-Paddle-Opsicopolis, the kind of third moment as we walk in? Because we're seeing the gates open, so I hope they do it. But yeah, you can see just there, Cabbage Merchant. If I zoom in, can I get to this one? If I go back here. Yeah, Cabbage Merchant. Right there. So it's not a super clear look, but it's something. So that's good. And then, yeah, this is it. This is the shot. They pan up a little bit, and you get to see the delivery system, the delivery chutes of Omashu, the kind of tiered structure of the second largest city in the Earth Kingdom, the one with the crazy kind of, history related to the Badger Moles and stuff like that. King Boomy's in here somewhere, and that's pretty exciting because they do have an actor for King Boomy, so it'll be interesting to see how much they focus on this. I think this looks fantastic. So much detail. I think this looks pretty good. But the question, I think, and this is the main thing I've been discussing in my videos about this show, is sort of how much time in one of these episodes are we actually going to spend in Omashu? Because we've got, 8 episodes. They are going to be an hour long, but you are putting kind of 20-ish episodes of the animation into 8 episodes. So we assume the Omashu stuff will be in or around, maybe the first, second, third-ish episode. They could switch around slightly where it's placed, but it has to be relatively early on because of where Omashu is. Is this just half of an episode here? Is there literally an episode that is half Omashu, half Warriors of Kyoshi? That's the sort of adaptation breakdown that I'm very interested to see, because that could make for a very harsh cut in the middle of an episode to just be like, and now we're done on Kyoshi Island, cut, we're in Omashu, or something like that. How they make it all flow together with a lower episode count will be kind of interesting to see. Because like they clearly put the effort in here. They're going to need it for book 2 if they get there, of course. But, they're focusing a little bit on it. And again, they have a Boomy, so they're going to do that sort of stuff. But anyway, from there, we cut to Zuko on the ship with his troops. So he is wearing the kind of, I guess it's the holder for the swords here on the back, so which is kind of interesting. As he walks through here, we see the scar. Obviously, there's been a lot of debate already about the scar. Is it enough? Should they even attempt to make it look super, super brutal, or should they just, make it like this where it's visible, but you're not constantly like, ugh, scar. I think it looks, fine. I'm not the most obsessed fan when it comes to I need Zuko to look, viciously scarred. I think they get it across visually, I think, well enough. And I'm assuming just for sort of the production and stuff like that, you don't want that makeup to take an absolute like eternity to like take on and off. It probably allows them to be a little bit more agile in shooting, that it's, you know, a little bit more of a maybe simpler effect that still looks perfectly fine. And again, based on what we know, it's sort of like some people overemphasize like the impact the kind of scar has on him, when, as far as we're aware, like he has perfect vision out of that eye and stuff like that. So, you know, it's one of those things anyway. But yeah, him on the ship, we get a quick shot of Iroh. Again, we've seen Iroh before. They put out a screenshot of what he looks like. Looking a bit more concerned here. I'm not really sure like what like scene this necessarily is, because you can't really make out exactly where it is. And like Zuko's wearing a kind of like his kind of like ninja suit almost, rather than anything else. So like, is this blue spirity stuff in or around there happening, or what? I'm not really sure, because again, he has the swords on his back. So what's the situation here? It's going to be an interesting one. Might be the storm. So we'll see what happens there. But then we cut to this shot here of what I'm guessing is a messenger hawk arriving in on Pohai's stronghold. Is that what we're doing here? Is this like meant to be Zhao getting his promotion at the start of the Blue Spirit? Or are we like Fire Nation capital, Fire Nation getting alerted? Based on the shot, I think it might be actually more of a situation where the Hawk delivers sort of the news back to the Fire Lord that it's like the Avatar's alive. And that's why we get this, followed by this. Trying to tell a little bit of a story with the trailer. So could be the promotion scene, could be like this is the moment we actually get to see Ozai react to the Avatar's alive. Because this is what you can do, because they're not going to hide Ozai's face and not really have scenes with him until book 3 like they did in the animation. We have Ozai from the start. You can have scenes where he reacts. We get to see the Fire Lord like properly react to finding out the Avatar's alive and all this sort of stuff. So cool stuff. Again, we saw what he looks like in the trailer. Pretty perfect casting. This is probably the most like universally, I think, liked casting decision. It's just like, yeah, this looks like Ozai. And I've always been a big thing. Like I'm never super like in a situation where I feel like I constantly have to hate on The Last Airbender movie. But one thing I absolutely despise about The Last Airbender movie is their Ozai. I never felt like he was Ozai. Like that actor choice, I just think did not work in the movie. It's very spot on here, I think, overall. Definitely, I agree. It's one of the best casting decisions here, for sure. Then we cut to Suki. This is a kind of little surprise one in a way, because they don't show you like a ton of different characters in the trailer. So I actually really like that they show Suki. Like even in the like main kind of continuity, like it's always a little bit of a surprise when they include Suki with a lot of stuff. So the fact that the Netflix trailer actually just straight up includes her from the start, I guess highlights the fact that they're probably going to be able to incorporate Suki maybe into the story in a bigger way early on. They probably still have to have the typical breaks with her, but you can do more with her because obviously in the animation, they knew in the animation she was, I think, initially meant to be just a one-off character. Fans liked her, and then they decided to incorporate her more into the show because there's just early series type stuff. Here they know she eventually becomes a member of Team Avatar and is a hugely important character towards the end, so they can better set that up. We already seem to know they're probably going to give the stuff around Kyoshi Island and just Avatar Kyoshi a little bit more focus than in the show. So it's going to be fascinating to see what they do here. But yeah, pretty cool here. Suki as the leader of the Kyoshi warriors, has the headrest here, has the classic Kyoshi makeup, basically the Dao Fei makeup. So if you have read the Kyoshi novels, of course, you'll know the significance behind like a lot of what the real meaning behind a lot of Kyoshi's kind of artifacts and style actually are, and the whole idea that like this is actually the paint from this kind of Daofei bandit group, effectively the Flying Opera Company, is a really cool backstory from the novels, and just the fact that it's part of this hugely respected warrior group in the Aang era versus bandit group in the past. Bandit group with a little bit of kind of nobility to it, of course, but a bandit group sort of nonetheless to a certain degree. And then here, romance a little bit. They kind of emphasize the Sokka Suki relationship here, which is obviously the main relationship by the end of the show for Sokka. Because the UA stuff is part of the finale, and they're going for spoilers here. Little sidebar, I suppose. Was weird to see the host on the stream talk about Avatar in that kind of spoiler kind of way, which I guess they have to because, you know, they're trying to appeal to new people, but it was kind of weird to be like, and let us describe to you what Avatar is about, and it's like, I get you have to do this, but it's weird to hear that still. So yeah, we're gonna do this whole arc here. We'll be interested to see if they do give it any more focus or anything like that. But they seem to be going for it here. The training here, him kind of ultimately kind of showing respect. How much will they lean into the Sokka sexism plot early on? Will be interesting to see. But nice that they have Suki here, definitely. Then they do have a shot of the other Kyoshi warriors, so we get a look at the kind of fans here. Better look at the kind of full uniform here with the kind of the green and the armor and stuff like that. So pretty nice overall. I think pretty accurate. Again, would like to see sort of some scenes that actually have dialogue in it, but that is that. Then we cut to Crescent Island. So I'm kind of wondering, like, just stepping back through here for a second. What are we doing here? Like, is it in order? So let's see. Flashback. First 2 episodes. Yes. We go to so the Southern Air Temple. Omashu, then Kyoshi. So it's not in order necessarily, but it's still early stuff. So anyway, Crescent Island here, of course. So this is the stuff in or around episode 8 of the show. This is where we go. Episode 7 ends on the cliffhanger of we need to go here, basically. So very cool stuff. And then, yeah, the kind of extra bit of the shot, Aang kind of zooming into frame here at this point. So again, all the, I think, kind of background visual shots, I think look pretty strong overall. So, yeah, not too much to say here, because again, I'd like to see what's actually there. Then we get an interesting shot where Aang kind of like lands on the ground. We do see a bit of an airbending move here, so you can see the dust kind of comes up. And then as it kind of clears from the airbending, we get the kind of reveal of our kind of first main shot of Aang. Are you keeping this VOD up? Yes. Yeah. All my live streams are just set to basically when I end the stream, it's just up on the channel. So it won't be like down at all. It'll stay up the whole time. So yeah, Aang here. So again, we've seen what Aang looks like before. I definitely prefer the kind of non-winter orange kind of shawl. The arrow tattoo, I still don't have... I don't feel like super strongly about it kind of either way. I think it looks better in a lot of these kind of shots here. Some of the promo images make it look kind of almost like kind of glistening almost. That like you can tell it's sort of like, you recently painted that on, didn't you? But, you know, it's fine. You get a look at the ones on his hands here. But, you know, pretty nice overall. Then we get I guess this is the kind of Heibai thing just outside Senlin village. The forest has been burned down, kind of representative of the idea of like, this highlights to Aang his failings as the Avatar. He wasn't here to prevent this. The Avatar is meant to kind of protect nature to a certain degree, and he hasn't kind of made that happen. So he's on his knees here. So I view that as being a bit of a good sign in that, like, it seems like they're going to capture the feel of like what Aang is going through as like the Avatar who ran away and has all these regrets because he's, now back in the world 100 years later. This is one of those kind of moments. So that's pretty nice. Very interested to see, like, are we doing this here in full? Like, will we see Heibai? That's going to be an interesting one to see visually, like how they do the spirits. Because Heibai is, especially in that kind of more dark spirit form, is an interesting looking kind of creature. So going to be fascinating to see how they actually do that, and then later on if they show it in the kind of panda form. So there's that. Then we get this. So at least to me in my initial read through, I'm just kind of like, what are we seeing here? Like, who is this? Is this Zhao Zuko? Because none of the shots to me make it obviously clear who's who. Like, is Ozai here? Is this the flashback? Because Ozai, if it's Zuko, then we see that Zuko clearly blocks Ozai's attack here with firebending. There's a clear distinction here. Whereas obviously in the original, he didn't fight back. I feel like it probably has to be the flashback, but like, I don't think this shot is like super clear on who it is. This obviously feels like it's kind of Ozai Zuko, but I don't know. It's one of those ones where, because we haven't seen the kind of Zuko in the past with like hair, it's a hard one to tell. So there's that. Let's see, comment in chat. Do we have confirmation Jeremy Zuckerman is back for the music? No, they have a different composer, but the composer has, what was the wording on this? The composer has like access to the original ATLA soundtrack and is going to be doing like bits and pieces where like there will be original tracks, but then there will also be usage, I believe, of the original soundtrack. I think that's what was said. Again, I don't know the name of the composer off the top of my head. I could probably find it relatively quickly, but I think that's what I heard the situation was, is that so we'll get a mix of new stuff, but they're not abandoning the original track. Because again, I'm assuming they have the remastered ATLA soundtrack happening with the release, with Avatar in concert. They're going to want to use some of that stuff because they kind of have to, I think, a little bit. But yeah, we get the, I guess, flashback scene is, I think, what most people are probably in agreement on here. Just prior to Zuko getting burned. Then we cut to Zuko putting Aang's kind of portrait up on the wall. Bit of Yang Chen up here, or just air nomad kind of nun. But it's certainly very reminiscent of the portrayal of Yang Chen in a lot of like statues and stuff like that. So it's a fun little detail there. Yes, the composer is Takeshi Furukawa. So yeah, that's good to know. And then I was trying to look at the kind of maps here in the background. So you can see here, this is the Fire Islands and the tail end of the Fire Islands going off into the the Earth Kingdom here. We've got the Water Tribes up here. Aang, Yang Chen. I guess this is another part of a map. This is him, I guess, tracking Aang's movement, I guess, to a certain degree. So yeah, it feels too too obviously similar to a lot of depictions of Yang Chen, it probably has to be Yang Chen. I'm guessing like Zuko is just historically like, okay, what do air nomads look like? There's the most depictions of them through the avatars, so he's probably getting a sense. Because again, like Zuko doesn't know if it's like a man or a woman, if it's this ancient avatar, if it's young, so it makes sense to a certain degree. But just a cool little moment here. Zuko's mission, of course. Then we cut to some of the kind of Zuko stuff in action. So what's happening here? Where Zuko, Iroh out in the field here. Zuko does a firebending move. This feels like, I guess, the moment where, like, what is this? Where Iroh gets captured by the Earthbenders, and like Zuko kind of helps to get him back. That to me would seem like kind of what's happening here. Like in book 1, I guess it would kind of have to be that. We don't really see who they're fighting. Like, it could be the pirates potentially. But I think that's probably the idea here. It's just that like Zuko's kind of out training, Iroh does stuff, gets captured. And then we see a bit of action. This is probably the most clearest kind of bit of the bending action. So we see Zuko did his kind of flip move here. He generates some fire, does a flip, moves through the air here, and does a whole kind of giant kind of spiraling kind of fire kick. Very cool kind of like visually, but the shot is kind of like, it feels very like in a vacuum, sort of, that like it's just him on his own. We don't know who he's firebending at, to what end. Like, it's an impressive like acrobatic maneuver, but it's like kind of just a little bit on his own. I definitely want to see more of the bending. I think it for the most part seems fine. Like, they're not doing any kind of weird approach with it or anything like that. So it seems, I think, pretty good. Then we get a shot of Azula. Now, obviously, the Azula stuff is going to be super interesting to see what they do. They've already shown a picture of her, like, in her armor. But this is a character who, in book 1, in the animation, only appears in what the flashback scene to watch, basically, Zuko fight her father, get burned. And then right at the end, when Ozai sends her out on the mission. But we also know Mei and Ty Lee have already been cast. So my assumption is that, I'm guessing at a certain point through this, they're basically just moving the Azula stuff up. So Ozai probably sets Azula, like, prepare a team earlier on. And we maybe see some of the that first kind of Azula forming the team stuff in this book. Because I think in the initial image of Azula, you can see Mei and Ty Lee in the background. So maybe there'll be a kind of an original scene of like, oh, and the team do this thing before the actual book 2 content happens that we typically know. But she is an interesting character because she becomes obviously a main character, but book 1 is not where her focus is. There's obviously potential for them to do more flashback stuff and to utilize Azula more heavily in those flashbacks, but nice that they included her here to just kind of showcase that difference to a certain degree. This shot, they put this out, it's obviously in the trailer, but then also as a normal, as a actual screenshot on like Twitter and stuff like that. Not sure what scene this is from or whatever. Let's see, question in chat. So non-canon. I suppose we should probably stop to actually have that discussion about canon and what it actually means. This show, by the nature of it being an adaptation, will be its own continuity, will have its own canon. We know there's going to be differences and changes, but the stuff that this show does different has no effect on the animated canon. Like, it's separate. In the same way that the Last Airbender movie, it also did stuff differently. None of what it did affects animated ATLA. They're just its own separate continuity in adaptations. Now, there might be little bits and pieces that we might be able to learn and maybe like adapt into the canon when it comes to stuff like if they say randomly reveal the name of a location that we sort of know is in the animation, but we just don't have that information yet. So there's the opportunity for us to do like learn some things, but absolutely I don't think we can like fully kind of say for certain that any change that is made here has any impact on the animated continuity. That's just how this stuff always tends to work, that they are separate. So that's the kind of just important thing to note. So like, say going back up to the top again, like we don't really have much depiction of, say, like the Air Nomad genocide. This will give us like an insight potentially into how it could have played out, but we can't really say that what happens here is exactly what happened in the animated kind of continuity. So it's just that sort of thing where like it's the situation where like this is an adaptation of the animation overall. So there's that sort of stuff. And a lot of the changes that we seem to know they're going to make is kind of just the idea that Avatar has expanded its story since it aired. And the Netflix show is going to utilize the fact that a lot of that stuff is in place already. So some of the big stuff that we sort of know is that, like, say, Avatar Karuk is going to be, I think, utilized more than he was. Like, Karuk isn't really utilized at all outside of, like, one reference at the end of book 1. But they have an actor for him here. And everything points to the fact that we're actually going to be bringing some like novel information and stuff like that into play when it comes around to that kind of Karuk content here. So it's just one of those situations where like ultimately in general this is a complete separate entity to animated Avatar The Last Airbender, and you know they are connected just because one is an adaptation of the other. But like, that's just the way it works. We'll see on a case-by-case basis like what exactly happens. But there's that. So yeah, that's that. This shot in the cave here. Do they go inside the iceberg like a cavern and find Aang underneath? Let's go back up here, actually, for a second. So, the idea would be that instead of maybe just, like cracking this, do they, like, go around the back, and it's basically like being inside of a cavern in here, and that, like, it's actually kind of, like, open down here, and that's where they find him, rather than doing something where, like, it literally just sort of, like, cracks open here. Maybe it's certainly a possibility, but like it's a bit of a, it's kind of one of the more odd shots because it's very random in the middle of the trailer. But yeah, they're also in there. Yeah, they take the kind of winter coats off going in here. Fire sage temples, like the underground kind of magma caverns. Maybe this is a darker section of them. There's maybe the that sort of stuff. Otherwise, like, where would it be? Like, Southern Air Temple, you could maybe do some sort of a thing where if it's in ruins, like you're in a darker area, potentially. Omashu, did they bring up Secret Tunnel early? That's a kind of interesting point. Otherwise, like what? Episode 7, 8, there's potentially some stuff. I think a lot of stuff in the middle they're going to be skipping. Like Great Divide, they're not going to do Great Divide. The Storm doesn't really feature a tunnel like this. Or might it be that? Might this be the cave where Aang is hanging out in the storm when the fisherman upsets him and he goes into the cave? But Sokka would be out with the fisherman. But again, they don't have to do that episode in that exact way. Hard to say. There's a variety of different places that this could actually be. So yeah, we'll see what that is. But it seems like probably they're out of the Southern Water Tribe at this point because they don't have the kind of winter outfits on anymore. So there's that. And then we get a shot of Aang going into the Avatar state, I guess, or just something spiritual happening to him. Now, what is interesting about it, again, across the scenes, maybe a little bit of a story being told, is that we get this build-up scene of like the tattoo slowly lighting up, and then we cut to this shot. And now, what's interesting about this is that this is clearly someone drops out of the sky onto the ground near all these firebenders. And what happens is that they get blown back by air. Might be some earth bending going on as well, potentially, but I think it's mostly air. But visually, now, it's very hard to find a super good shot of this. I'll actually try and zoom in on this one a little bit more. Let me just get to this one. Yeah, here. And then... Is this Aang? Because this is a weird one where like you could just about make out the light of like something going on here, but I don't obviously get the colors of like Aang's quite bright outfit. So what is this? Because it's definitely a human character who like lands out of the sky and does a big airbending blowback move. Is this... Are they going to basically utilize the Avatar Day situation where Aang in certain situations can become the past Avatar? And this is on Kyoshi Island. Instead of doing the whole taming the Unagi thing to kind of win the day, does Aang go into the Avatar state here, become Kyoshi, and fend off an attack in that way? That would be an interesting one, because they're going to have scenes where they use the actress that they have for Kyoshi. And otherwise, like, where does Kyoshi get used? Like, that's the big question. What scenes is Avatar Kyoshi actually going to be in this season? So, like, the statue obviously is going to look like her. We probably assume they will use the past avatars in like the opening sequence. I assume they'll do an earth, water, air, fire kind of situation. They'll do that, and that will feature those characters. But I'm assuming that part of the expansion in the Warriors of Kyoshi is going to probably have to be Aang having some sort of a spiritual moment on Kyoshi Island, and doing it this way. So that would be a way to utilize the other past lives, certainly. But yeah. So, yeah, we have that, and yeah, like I said, firebenders get blown back. Then we get this shot of Appa here, rising up out of the ground. There's a few sequences of this one, like, you see the group is just barely hanging on, and they escape from a bunch of firebenders here. More of a shot to just show Appa in flight and the movement. I'll actually cut down to, we did get a proper shot of Appa. Here, they posted a full shot of Appa here, so we actually get the face here. We saw the arrow, of course, the day before, but I think Appa looks pretty good overall. Let me go back here, and I'll go here. So if we zoom in a bit, it's one of those ones where, like, we need to see some scenes of Appa probably, like, doing some of the stuff that he does in the show. Like, being kind of fun, cute, I would do anything for you, Appa. And we'll probably get that. I think the way they were showing the visuals, I think like the animation was, I think, pretty nice of like Appa flying through the sky. And I think a lot of the stuff is actually quite well done. Like the detail of like the fur, I think is really good. I think they've got the balance of that right. It's just going to be about sort of like, show us the eyes. Show us those eyes, and highlight that when we get to something like Appa's Lost Days, we are going to care about this animal. That's the big thing. But in general, I definitely like the look. I'm looking over at like my Appa McFarlane figure over there. I think it's pretty accurate. Yeah, like even the kind of cheeks coming out like this is pretty accurate. So I think thumbs up here. Just I want to see the eyes a bit more. That's probably the main thing. But yeah, the group being on here, like the saddle, Sokka just relaxing up on top is kind of cool. He's just arm over the side here, while there's some concern up front, which I think is because this is actually part of, I think, the scene that we get here. Yeah, there's a bit of a sequence that we get here where you see a kind of concerned Aang. Like Katara, I guess, is trying to cheer Aang up. I'm guessing this is the arrival at the Southern Air Temple, because Aang looks a bit concerned about what's going on, but then he gets happy when he sees Momo, and it seems like Katara sort of like points out Momo. And so is this like the new sort of like the debut of Momo, or like has Momo been introduced prior to this, but like he shows up leaving with them, or is this earlier on and this is actually like the sign that like everything about the air nomads is not gone? There's Aang, there's Appa, but a surviving lemur as well. I think Momo looks pretty good overall here, because like it's one of those things where it's a relatively kind of realistic kind of animal, so you have to make it, I suppose, to a certain degree look like an actual lemur. But I think they did a good job here. Again, I think it looks pretty good. Again, and you can see the eyes with Momo. So if I go back here, it's not too far away. Yeah, I think it looks good. Like the wings, you can see through, of course. Pretty nice. They've made like his legs a little bit kind of like thicker than maybe like the animation model, but I think it still looks pretty good. They found the right blend, I think, of it looking realistic, but like they're still cute, which I think they needed to do, and I think they got it. And so they're certainly in like the kind of Patola mountain range. Like they're in that sort of like area. It's just, is Momo already part of the group here? Because again, like I said, like he's a bit sad at the start. Like Momo's not here with them seconds before this, but then Katara points out, Momo lands, and Aang kind of rubs him on the head here, which I actually like the visuals in this shot here. I'm not sure how good the quality is, but you can tell like there's a lot of like a cat liking a really good kind of rub or scratch. Like Momo's just like, yes, I like this. So this is a very kind of fun scene that I like, and I was really wondering, like with Momo CG kind of element, will they do some of the kind of classic Momo stuff and actually have Momo doing stuff in the background, being cute over here or there? And it seems like they've got that right with scenes like this. Just the little things to characterize the animals a bit more. So very good there. Then we're getting towards the end here. There's not too much left, but what do we have here? So visually, like, what is this? Is Kyoshi Island? Yeah, I forgot myself, but yeah, you can see the statue in the second shot here. So it's a pretty cool shot, just seeing the visuals here around Kyoshi Island, formerly known as Yokoya. The big thing here is in this second shot. I'll zoom in on it actually so we can see it better. Kyoshi statue. So definitely Kyoshi Island there. You can't really make out the details of the Kyoshi statue, I suppose, but you can clearly see some sort of a fan going on here. And I think it looks pretty good overall. And it makes sense. Like, yeah, the Kyoshi Island does have the sort of like kind of beach at the front here. Like, this is where the elephant koi, unagi stuff will be going on. Pretty cool. So yeah, nice shot here as they you zoom up kind of Appa's tail. You see Sokka, you kind of go over the shoulder. Momo's here, and you see Aang and Katara more up front. Like I said, this is the main takeaway from I think some of the other art that we got was definitely this shot here. Nice screenshot of Appa's face. And then February 22nd gets confirmed at the end of the trailer. Proper release date here. As rumored from like a week ago, yes, February 22nd. So I'd say earlier than probably I think most people predicted here. I think March was what I think a lot of people were going with for the kind of couple of months kind of prior to this. But it's kind of like there's definitely an about time overall. So nice there. It's not too far away as well. Like once we get to Christmas, like this is only a couple of weeks away. Let's see. Show also has a new thumbnail on Netflix. So let me see. Oh, I guess that's actual Netflix. Let me see. What do they have here? Avatar. Oh, yeah, that is actually pretty nice. Let's see, can I grab that at all? Yeah, just to highlight what I was talking about here. On Netflix, you can see that the show has a new kind of like image here. Pretty small here. I'd have to probably off screen try and grab it properly, but you can sort of see it there in the background. Can I zoom in? Yeah, nice image. Aang's back, kind of overlooking the world. Differently executed than before, but I think still looks kind of relatively nice. It's in the sort of poster that we got yesterday style, so that's kind of cool. But yeah, that's nice to have as well. So let's see. So this confirms the Southern Air Temple, then Kyoshi Island, since they already have Momo by the time they arrive, right? Yes. Yeah. So in terms of like, I suppose, what episodes do we actually see stuff from here? Let's just go through it and kind of do that breakdown. So this is all, like I said before, future stuff. Past stuff. Enema Genocide. So we have obviously 101. There's obviously going to be some 102 stuff in the actual show. And I think from like screenshots, I think we've probably definitely seen some stuff from the Avatar Returns, episode 2. Southern Air Temple, I think we can probably confirm at the very least that stuff like this scene here is definitely probably from in or around 103. 104, we obviously have Kyoshi's stuff. As we can see here, we obviously have the Suki stuff. 104, we know Kyoshi Island is in play. Then, like we kind of raved about earlier on, we do have Omashu from episode 5. Now, Imprisoned, they seem to have skipped. I don't believe we have casting information that suggests that they have an actor for Haru or Tyro. So I'm guessing 106 and the whole, Earthbenders on the metal ship, that whole episode probably is just going to get thematically rolled into some of the transition stuff between episodes, probably, because the main theme of Imprisoned is more or less just that this is sort of, by the end of it, a time where Aang and Katara inspire the people around them, and specifically Earth Kingdom towns, to fight back. The last Airbender movie kind of did this, I think, reasonably well. Yes, the bending in that scene is pretty bad, but the actual kind of montage of them going through the different Earth Kingdom towns to kind of inspire the Earth Kingdom to fight back was, I think, reasonably, well done. I'm assuming they'll probably do something like that again here, just to kind of highlight the positive effect on the sort of like allied nations with the Avatar being back. I assume they'll want to do something like that. As we go through here, we definitely have something from 107 here. This is definitely from 107, Winter Solstice Part 1, The Spirit World, because this is the forest outside Senlin Village with Heibai. So I'm assuming that's definitely what that is. Then episode 8, we of course have Crescent Island, I guess Fire Temple type stuff here from Winter Solstice Part 2, Avatar Roku, and they have an actor for Roku, of course. Episode 9, The Waterbending Scroll. It's probably one of the least significant episodes in Book 1, and you can just have Aang and Katara train in waterbending at almost any gap between episodes, like after episode 8. Like the exact events of that episode with the pirates and stuff like that, you don't have to, I think, have play out in that exact way. So that, I think, is a very understandable episode that they're probably going to skip or incorporate most of what it is in at a much later point. So that's episode 9. Jet. They have an actor for Jet. But I don't think we know much about actors for like the rest of the crew. So maybe they're just specifically involving Jet here, or they're just going to say that like the rest of the freedom fighters are more background characters. But you need, I think, to have Jet for, to some degree, it's a little bit of Katara's arc in Book 1, and you need to set up Jet for the Book 2 stuff in Ba Sing Se. I think he's important enough where you can't skip him. They do have Jet's gang. Okay. So I must have missed that in the casting information or whatever. But either way, they're going to have some sort of stuff with Jet. Now, the question there is kind of in a way like I talked about earlier on with King of Amashu. Are they going to devote a huge amount of an episode to Jet, or will Jet get incorporated in with some other element? Like, that's the kind of question I have, because even though they're likely going to be skipping quite a few episodes, I guess, where elements just won't be included, there's still a lot of like unique elements that make up plots for more than just like the 8 episodes that they actually have. So Jet, they're going to have to include somewhere. I don't think there's any obvious point where we necessarily like see something that would reference him. Great Divide, I'm pretty convinced they're skipping. I don't think we have any casting information that directly relates to the Great Divide at all. And maybe they'll do a reference. I think flying along, visually seeing the Great Divide below them, it would be a nice little thing to do. The Storm. obviously this is one of those episodes where there is a present day plot. The fisherman kind of, criticizing Aang going into the cave to tell Katara his backstory as the whole Zuko versus Lieutenant G thing happens on his ship. They have an actor for G, so I think they're going to do the Zuko versus G stuff, building up to the flashback, which I think we've agreed that this does seem to be the Ozai Zuko Agni Kai, so they're going for that. We'll see that, the event of the storm, of course, and then where do we have it? Yeah, this stuff here. This might be from the storm. Zuko on the ship, doing some stuff. Hard to say. Then episode 13 is the Blue Spirit, which again might be some of this stuff, because again he has the sword stuff on his back. What's going on here? Like there has to be that setup. You have to have some sort of a Zhao plot, of course, and getting captured. I'd be stunned if they don't do the full, Zuko breaks Aang out plot. It feels like it's the mid-season finale, kind of secondary kind of mid-season finale thing. They kind of have to do it. So 13, I'm pretty sure, is probably going to be in here. 14, the fortune teller. Again, I don't think they have an Aunt Wu, but I think with the fortune teller, like the waterbending master, it is probably going to be an episode where the takeaway from that is a relatively small thing in the grand scheme of things. If you really want to have Katara get the fortune, that can happen in like a tiny scene, again, as you transition between the more meaningful episodes. You can have Aang's like big moment saving the town. You can put that somewhere else. There's a way to kind of nicely move around some of these episodes that would be very one note. Bato of the Water Tribe, they have some of these characters. If I remember correctly, they have a June actress. I think there's some casting information that's like injured Water Tribe man, so they might have a Bato, but they're clearly doing some aspect of this episode. Again, if they're going to do the full Bato of the Water Tribe, I'm not really sure, with all the whole the plot of like, are they going to meet Bato? Aang lies about the information. Is that whole thing going to happen? I'd be a little bit surprised, but I think they want to have June and Nyla, because you need the Shirshu, I guess, for the finale stuff when they get to book 3. And then 16. Unless the chat knows any different, as far as I'm aware, they don't have Zhong. I think Zhong has consistently, as far as casting goes, been probably the most notable character that they don't seem to be doing for this book 1 adaptation. So that's a kind of interesting one. Let's see what's in the chat here. Did you notice Zhao is shown to be attacking Kyoshi Island? Is this Zhao? Might have to zoom in on this. Okay, so it's this screenshot. Let me try to find this one here. Is this Zhao? Just in a slightly different outfit from earlier on. Let me actually look at the actual trailer so I can see this in slightly higher quality. Whereabouts is this in the trailer? It's a very quick shot. Might be. Because the image of Zhao we have is this one. But this is obviously from a different scene. So like the red stuff is definitely different. And I have it here. Is this just like him, like, because he gets promoted, like, what is it, 2 times in book 1? Because he goes from, what is it, captain to commander to admiral. Is it just the way you wear the sash different across them? I wouldn't mind if they included Zhao a little bit more up front. But it doesn't matter that much. I suppose we're just trying to get everything we can out of the trailer. But it's certainly I think interesting just to see, like, oh yeah, what if it was Zhao that was there as well? So there's that. And then yeah, the debate of like what's going on here. Is this Kyoshi and all this sort of stuff? I think the hair matches. So it might just be a slightly different outfit for a different scene, because I think we're all expecting this to be Blue Spirit, and then this is obviously much earlier on. That probably just is the situation. So I guess that means they're unless they have this stuff reordered a little bit, they're adding Zhao in a little bit more in or around the place, which is kind of interesting. That like Zhao follows Zuko to Kyoshi Island, whereas obviously in the animation, this is the following episode after their Agni Kai, but Zhao kind of doesn't appear for a little bit after this. But yeah, we're talking about episode 16 and the whole idea of like they don't seem to have a Zhong actor, and because the rumors are suggesting that Zhao is going to have this like slightly expanded role when it comes to like the finale, when it comes to stuff like the whole killing a spirit plot, and there's going to be some sort of a dagger thing, and this is the whole Avatar Karuk extra plot that they're adding in using some of the novel information. To me, it kind of comes across as a little bit weird that if you're trying to expand Zhao's arc, that you're leaving out the introduction of the character who trained him, Zhong. But I don't know. Maybe they want to do his introduction elsewhere. Maybe he is still in here and it's just like a casting information that just hasn't been caught. It's a bit of a weird one. And then 17. Yeah. Northern Air Temple. We know they have actors for like Teo the Mechanist, so they're gonna do that, which seems almost like a bit of a kind of surprising one about like how they're going to kind of fit that in overall. But and then yeah, the finale stuff, like they're gonna do 18, 19, and 20 in some way or another. You know, the exact layout of the episodes is going to be a bit interesting to see, but you know, they're going to give them all the attention. So by the looks of things, there may be skipping probably like, let's say four, maybe 5 episodes that maybe won't get as much attention, but they seem to at least have, or are planning to, scenes from at least probably 3/4 of the stuff here. Now, obviously, this trailer seems to be very focused only on the kind of first half, getting towards the kind of end. They don't seem to have any scenes here like from the finale necessarily. So we're definitely waiting to see how they incorporate a lot of this kind of other stuff in here, as well as possible, obviously. But yeah, it's interesting. But like, yeah, going back to sort of the start, I think it's visually, I feel very confident right now. I think they have definitely sold me just on the basis of a lot of these backgrounds, villages, towns, and stuff like that look very good. I like the look of Appa. I like the look of Momo. outside of some minor kind of nitpicks with specific kind of costume choices, I think most of the actors look good as the characters with what they're kind of like wearing and stuff like that. It's at this point, I think, just that we haven't seen the performances. We haven't seen the sense of like tone, how serious or not serious is it actually going to be? Because that was the thing that, you know, when you got past the sort of like hardcore, like heavy, just like let's nitpick every single aspect of the Last Airbender movie, when you actually attempted to do more of the kind of detailed analysis, it was a little bit too much, a lot much of a too serious approach, and they just lost a lot of, you know, the Avatar aspects. I see some glimmers of hope, like this little scene here of like Aang quite serious, a little bit somber, either before or after the events of episode 3 have happened, and then he is immediately cheered up by, I guess, Momo arriving and properly becoming part of the group at this point, and you can see how happy the whole team is. So like there's that fun moment and like the showing you like a bit of like sadness into kind of happiness. So definitely liking that, but I still need to see the portrayal overall, because again, the only dialogue we have is this. Now, because I suppose we skip past this quite early on. Time is a funny thing. The past, the future, it all gets mixed up. There's only one way to keep it straight. Always remember who you are. There's quite a big gap between him saying this and then the cut to always remember who you are. So is it a fully like contained thing where like the answer to this question basically is this? I guess it makes sense to a certain degree. But the Gyatso thing, always remember who you are. It definitely is meant to represent Aang, because like they show the past at the start. Aang is a character basically from this era where the genocide actually happens. So there's that. I definitely don't feel super strong about this line as like a Gyatso kind of like word of wisdom type thing. I think it could have been like a little bit better. Because like this is where like I suppose like the characterization of Gyatso, do we really know him that well? You'd expect it to be maybe more of a joke kind of from him based on what we kind of expect, but I don't know. It's one of those ones where like I think it's a weird choice of line, given that it's the only dialogue in like the whole trailer. That's kind of ultimately what I'd say on this one. Is just like, yeah, wish we saw a bit more there. But we do have an actor for Gyatso, so we're going to get scenes. Now, is it going to be only this Aonoma genocide scene, or are we actually going to get other stuff? Like we're obviously going to get, I guess, Aang's The Storm flashback. That will be probably the main stuff where we get to see Gyatso. Will they add anything more? Not sure, but you know, either way, it'll be interesting to see just some Air Nomad stuff. Actually quite excited to see them do that kind of flashback scene with Aang. Let's see, they're adding in Avatar time travel multiverse. Who knows? Who knows? Spirit world time shenanigans, but hopefully not. So yeah, there's that. Anything else to say here? Just kind of skimming through it again. I suppose the comet will be an interesting one. We're all probably in agreement here. It's going to be very difficult for them to keep it the same way as it is in the animation, where it's like coming in the end of summer, that like the full 3 seasons have to happen basically in the space of 9 months, just because of the time of production for the show. And like season 2, is it even going to happen? I'm guessing they're gonna do the thing where they're gonna say it's coming in like what, 3 years, 2 years, or something like that. They're gonna have to, I think, acknowledge that when it comes to referencing the comet, and just slightly change the time frame of when it's actually going to arrive. That is an interesting question. Let me get the right screenshot up for this. Okay, it's all the way down here, isn't it? Yeah, this one. Do you think they're actually going to state Aang's avatar spirit as Rava, since we now know the name? The question is, Katara is the one who says that line, like his avatar spirit is activating, or whatever it is. Why would she know the name Rava? So unless they're going to basically do this thing where like it's super well known that the avatar is a human combination with the specific spirit known as Rava, I'm guessing they probably will just keep it as a thing where it is known about the avatar that they have this kind of extra thing known as the avatar spirit. That's to me why like that's always kind of fit to me, in that like, yeah, the lore experts, you know, your Banti tribe basically know kind of stuff about like Rava, because again, Avatar formed 10,000 years ago, literally. Should Katara, who would make a comment about this, know the name of the spirit as Rava? And that's the kind of question of like, just because we now know that information, do they need to now reference that at a certain point? Because like they came up with, I think, a pretty good reason for why Korra had to go all the way back, and you know, we were going to present the story of the first Avatar. Let's have her take a damage to her spirit that kind of requires her to go all the way back. Whereas with Aang, as like the initial Avatar content, I think it makes sense that we're more focused just on him and the avatars just directly before him. So we're gonna, I suppose, get to see because we know that they have a Roku, they have a Kyoshi, they have a Karuk. I don't think they have an actress for Yang Chen, but Yang Chen isn't until basically Escape from the Spirit World or the finale. But I don't believe there was an actor cast for Yang Chen. I'd have to look that up again. But there's that. Lore Guru Morgan of the Banti. Yep. They're the kind of lore experts. That, or I guess kind of Wan Shi Tong, technically, is kind of the lore expert. But he's very reliant on those foxes to get him the right information. Yeah, that is an interesting point. Like, an Easter egg could be if, like, a fire sage maybe were to say something like Rava. If they do, like, a thing where, like, Shayu specifically maybe mentions it because he's more of a, like, actual kind of connection, proper sage, that would be kind of interesting. But yeah, like, I don't think they'll really find a way to maybe reference that. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they maybe just change the wording of some of those scenes, if they even do it, and just say that, like, oh, Katara knows it's the Avatar state activating, and they just maybe don't even phrase it as it's his Avatar spirit, even. Like, you can get around it without needing to super specifically, like, acknowledge it. It's an interesting one. Because, like, it gets into the idea of, like, do you have to wait until you adapt 201, the Avatar state, to properly explain it? And then you're just getting into kind of a bit of a technical thing. The Avatar spirit line, I think, is fine as a thing most normal people would probably know seeing the Avatar do something spiritual. Maybe it could be mentioned by Roku or Kyoshi. Yeah, potentially. Because it depends. Like, how are they going to like do the full like? Will they explain the details of the Avatar like a little bit more, and when they get around to it? That is an interesting thing to just see kind of how far they go in the sense of like in Kyoshi stuff, delving into it. Like I guess like the scene, like say like if they do the Southern Air Temple kind of Hall of Avatars scene, like there's room to maybe do some stuff about that there. But yeah, it'd be cool if they found a way to like nicely mention Rava, but I it's introduced in the Korra plot point, I think, nicely, and I don't think the stuff from before suffers just because we hadn't done that, as much as maybe some people with the lore will try to make it out that way. I really don't think Avatar, like the Avatar and Korra, the franchise overall, suffers just because like we learned information later versus upfront. Mm-hmm. If they get to 201, I still want Daniel Day Kim to play General Fong. No questions asked. Perhaps. Hiro Kanagawa as Fire Lord Sozin. Yeah, like I think I mentioned that at the start, but like they're going to do some interesting stuff, I think, with this flashback stuff, because like they have an actor for Sozin for a reason. So like I think they're planning to do something of note there. Let's see. Yeah, if they ever get around to live action Korra, it's like Daniel Day Kim as Hiroshi. Will they do it? You could make it work. I think you could make it work, but they probably would switch it up. Would live action Korra ever even happen? It's a bit of a tougher ask, I think. But yeah. Anything else? Just looking through these again. Omashi looks fantastic, obviously. Yeah, I think everyone agrees. Like, they chose the right actor definitely for Ozai. Very cool that they included Suki here. They didn't forget about Suki, so we don't need to bring back hashtag Where's Suki. She's right here. Crescent Island. And Forest. Yeah, the Agni Kai here is an interesting one. So like, okay, Zuko blocks here, but he still burns him. So they're changing this up. Interesting. They're gonna have some sort of a plot point here where something happens to Iroh, I guess. I'm assuming it's just that little plot point with the Earthbenders where Iroh gets captured. Azula, yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they incorporate her into things. Like, how early on do they do Azula? That's a question. Not sure about that shot. This one is super, super interesting, yeah. Yeah, Momo looks great. Appa looks great. Kyoshi statue. And yeah. So I suppose the question now is like, okay, February. So we're basically like, yeah, what, the core of... We're still like effectively 4-ish months away. 3 and a bit. it's not too far away. It's close. Like, given that this is the first like proper trailer that we have, it being so close is somewhat exciting. The question now is like, when do we get the proper like full trailer? When are they going to do the next kind of like info drop on this? Because I guess they're open to do this now, because what the actors strike ended like yesterday, or they announced that it was over. I don't know the exact specifics, but the actors are going to be freed up now, I guess, to promote this. So I'm guessing January, early February, with a couple of weeks to go, they drop the 3-minute trailer or something like that. That seems to be how Netflix do it. You get your sub 2-minute teaser trailer, and then your like 3 and a bit minute full trailer. That's going to be an interesting one to see what they do. Let's see. There is a mobile RPG coming next year. Yes, there is. So yeah, there still isn't a lot of information about that game. Just that it is a mobile, a strategy game coming in 2024. It's going to have some sort of a plot that's about a barbarian death cult, which could be super interesting, but we still know very, very little about that game. It's been a couple of months now since that initial announcement, when they sent me like the press release and stuff like that. So I'm assuming they're probably going to have to talk about that at some point soon. Like with regards to like announcing the title, showing it off actually for the first time. Because yes, it's scheduled for 2024, but we don't know when in 2024. And obviously with Avatar Generations coming to an end, it's a bit of a frustrating one. What do you think about the CGI? I still think it feels like CGI. I think the animals look good. Can you still tell it's CGI? Yeah, I do think there's always just a sense where, like, if you've watched enough shows, and just the fact that you're familiar with the material, Momo is CG, so you'll always see it as CG. But I think it looks good enough that when I look at the scenes, I don't immediately think, like, this is poorly executed. I think it's good for what it is, and especially like the way they kind of have got, I think, the realistic look of like Appa's fur is pretty strong. We haven't seen enough bending in my mind to really get too much of a judge for how good it looks. This Zuko kick, the screenshots, the quality is not great. It looks obviously like good, but it's the framing of this specific kick is kind of weird, because it's like, who's he bending at? But we have to wait and see on that. It looks, good here. But I think fire is just one of those ones where I think like it's hard to get, I think, fire bending wrong. Like they seem to be doing standard choreography here, where it's the same as it is in the show. It looks good. It's probably going to be more like the earth bending. That'll be an interesting showcase. Like they didn't really show water bending in the trailer either, but we do have the shot of Katara water bending. That's up here somewhere, isn't it? Yeah, you have a little bit of Katara water bending in the ball here. Water bending in motion is going to be an interesting one to focus on, but I think it's the earth that's probably going to be more of the tricky one, I think, to show off. Air, this one gave us a little bit of a look, but I think they more went with the dust effect. I'd be more interested with the airbending to just see when Aang does more of like a direct like attack on someone, and he does more of the kind of almost like force push style kind of airbending move. what is it that we actually see? Like, how realistic are they going to attempt to make the air look? Because I think you have to make it visual. I think you have to show that like you can actually see it. So that's going to be interesting. But in general, like I said, visually, I'm pretty impressed, because visuals are kind of the only thing that we really get in the trailer. We get a glimpse into kind of bits and pieces beyond that, but we're still waiting to see what they do. But yeah, like I'm pretty impressed, because like I was super neutral on a lot of the screenshots. I'm just like, okay, like, you know, Ozai looks good from some of this stuff. You know, like say this first image, like I think it feels like visually like we've come a long way from this very first image, where like I wasn't the biggest fan of this, because like the just bits and pieces of just like the tattoo just seems a little bit too perfect. It's kind of clear that it's makeup sort of thing. But I think it looks quite a lot better than some of these promo shots overall. Like I've said it multiple times, but like I think showcasing Sokka wearing this outfit that he'll only literally be wearing in this like one scene was very weird, when I think in the actual trailer he looks a lot better just on a kind of like scene to scene basis, wearing kind of more of his kind of typical outfit. So I think it's for the most part seems fine, and then stuff like this I think just looks very, very good, and it gives you confidence where like if they can get this right, like imagine book 2 Bossing Say, like a really impressive like establishing shot of Bossing Say as we come over the wall, maybe showing the drill in the on this side. There's some cool opportunities here. But yeah, probably like visually, I'd say like the only thing I'd say left that's going to be like really interesting will be Agna Kel'a, the Northern Water Tribe capital. That looks so impressive in the animation, like super impressive. I feel. So I hope they can do that right in like the finale. What sort of a way are they going to do like say Koizilla at the end? That will be a big test for them. I'd say spirit stuff, so like Heibai, Ko when they get there. Getting those characters right is going to be a kind of a test point for them as well. But otherwise, like, I have a lot of confidence about just Southern Water Tribe stuff, general Earth Kingdom town stuff. I think we're going to be perfectly fine. There, little bits and pieces, you know, islands here and there, all seems fine to me. It's just like the other elements of when these characters start to talk and say the lines, the adaptation aspect is going to come into play about like, wait, that's not the right line. What way do they incorporate episodes together? What gets cut? Do the additions that they make work? They're the questions. And that's the thing, is we've come out of, I suppose, our second kind of like event update for this show. The first one, we got a couple of screenshots in that 10-second symbol showcase. Now we have our big first reveal here. More screenshots, a poster, more images, and this teaser trailer. We still haven't seen any of the main characters say any dialogue. Gyatso is the only one who says something in the trailer. We definitely have more to see, for sure. That will be, I think, more representative of what the show actually is, because obviously there's going to be comparisons to Netflix One Piece, and I would actually say like this is, it feels in a way like it's repeating itself again. Of like, it feels like coming out of this one is where I feel very similarly about One Piece as I did coming out of this, is that visually it's like, oh, this is actually pretty good. They're making this work. I wasn't sure they'd be able to make it work, but it's good. But the big question after some of the first One Piece stuff is, how are they going to get this tonally right? These characters, what One Piece is about, are they going to make that work? And I think they did. Because they weren't afraid to just have like the characters like talking about their dreams. Like that's a big thing in One Piece. They just had those scenes. Very, very clear about it. Super sincere conversations about that sort of stuff. I hope they're able to get the tone of Avatar right as well. And have Katara be able to, you know, talk about how much hope the return of the Avatar gives her. While still having her arc of, you know, wanting to become a waterbender, still being the kind of like heart of the group. Sokka wanted to be the warrior. Like those fundamental kind of key arcs that they get them right. That's what we kind of need to see, that they're going to actually hit the kind of emotional core of the series. That's what's hard to see from this trailer so far. So like the flashiness in a way of the show is good so far, but the depth is kind of what we're waiting to see. Certainly like promising, and I think there's hope here, but it's like, can they act well in these roles? Is the script good? Is the adaptation good? They're the questions. So probably gonna wrap it up there. It's getting pretty late my time. I'll probably put out, I think I said already, I'll put out a video that's just probably like a 15 kind of 20 minute just like video kind of, that's a kind of summation of kind of what I've talked about here tomorrow. The stream will stay up, so if you need to go back and watch the stream, if you want to do that, the stream is going to stay up after this, but pretty happy with this. So final questions, I suppose, just before I wrap up the stream. Does anyone have anything else they want to say or ask? Otherwise, still planning on doing the stream at the weekend on Sunday to discuss Azula in the Spirit Temple. So actually have that over here. So the new Azula comic, I will be reviewing it, well, discussing it on a live stream on Sunday. Already have my review content up on my channel, but I think we have to talk about this book. Hugely important stuff. And I'm actually glad I did the stream here for this today, so we don't have two like mega topics for the stream. We've already talked about the Netflix trailer on stream, so we can focus on in-depth Azula conversation for the weekend. So that's going to be very exciting, because there's so much detail with Azula to get into after that comic. Fun times, and that's the thing. I wasn't really expecting to come out of this kind of be like, oh, the trailer, I'm sure it'll be fine, but like, will I be excited enough that I want to do a stream? And it was kind of like, yeah, actually, it was an exciting kind of thing, seeing everyone kind of get hyped for this, and like the stream building up to it, and even just that is nice to know. Like, they saved it for last. It was clear they knew Netflix Avatar is the huge thing. That's going to be exciting. Very fun, and I'm eager to see more. I'm eager to see the full trailer, to see scenes involving these characters, and of course I'm excited to review it, and so that's that. But thanks everyone for coming out to the stream tonight. Like I said, Sunday is going to be the next stream. I'll schedule it probably at some point tomorrow, so you'll know when on Sunday it is for the Azula discussion. I'll have some sort of a video summation of this tomorrow. Thanks everyone for coming out. Thanks for watching, and bye.